are and however you may be listening. This is Football Talk, and of course it is Thursday morning, so we have our Pick'em show. We're getting close to the end of the year, so all these games are really starting to matter a lot more. And of course, if you are playing along with us in the Pick'em Championship, every win really counts, especially coming down the stretch, getting really close to crowning this year's champion. And of course, we have a guest coming back. He's been on here before. He's a 28-year pro. And you've seen him not only here, but on the Predictive Playbook Sports Channel. And so help me welcome back Mr. John Ryan.
Thanks for having me, Bo. How's everything going?
Excellent. How about you?
Good. No complaints. Humbly stated, I'm on a 25-6 ATS run in the NFL.
Awesome.
For whatever reason, this time of year, I just see the card better than I do in September, and grateful for it. Nothing else.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good time to be seeing it better.
It is. It absolutely is.
All right. Well, so going over what I did last week, it was kind of a funny, weird mix for me. So picking straight up, I went 11-5. Not a bad week.
That's very good.
Against the spread, I went 7-9, which is rough. But then the over/under, I hit 10-6. So it was just kind of a weird mix across the board. And then, of course, in true fashion, I like to call out the ones I missed. So the ones that I ended up missing on this one, I had the Falcons beating the Panthers. I think 99% of the planet did as well. So that one is that one's no surprise. It was kind of crazy that you could get a ticket to that game for 45 cents.
That is crazy. I mean, 45 cents?
45 cents was the lowest ticket price.
Might as well just give it away free and include a beer, I think.
Absolutely. And it's funny because even with that, the number that I saw was there was only 5,200 people in the stadium, which is insanely bad.
That is that's horrid.
Yeah. I mean, that's a college football game and not at a D1 school. Like that is, right. That is not great. All right. So then I missed on the Texans and the Titans. I thought without CJ Stroud, the Titans were going to be able to get that done. They just had enough other talent and their defense is solid. I thought they'd be able to do something. But right there at the end of the game, they give it away. That's kind of what the Titans are, though. So it's not like a huge shock, but I figured without Stroud, they probably could have got it done. And then Green Bay versus the Bucks. I did not see Baker Mayfield having a perfect game ever in his career, let alone in Lambeau. So, I got that one wrong. I think a lot of people got that one wrong, though. Cowboys at the Bills. I thought the Cowboys were going to do something. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have seen the beatdown. I could see if the Bills just won, right? But what happened was not what I expected. And then, of course, I did pick against my Seahawks on Monday night, and the Eagles come up short. So those were my 5 misses there. Where were you at?
Well, I was on Buffalo. It was a 10-unit play, which is I guess akin to others games of the month. That's the highest I go. And I was very nervous because I was thinking that analytically, Dallas is simply going to have a road game sooner or later where they're going to score 40 points a game like they do at home. Yep. And they really underperformed even what my model and the projections were calling for in that game against Buffalo. And, lo and behold, they're a road team again this week. They haven't beaten a winning record team on the road all season.
Yep.
And the only winning record team they beat was the Eagles at home, but the Eagles had played a gauntlet of 6 consecutive teams that are probably all of them are going to be in the playoffs. So I don't know how to read the Cowboys right now, but whenever they're on the road until proven wrong, it's a fade.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. Plus, it's December football, and it's the Cowboys. So I don't trust them in December anyway, certainly not in January. So until they show me something different, I'm pretty much always going to kind of lean against them. Some of the teams they're playing, you kind of you feel inclined to pick them, even though history says you shouldn't.
I did get lucky with the Browns. As you know, they were losing pretty much the whole entire game, and
Yep.
then managed to pull it out, and the line was 2.5. So that was one of those times where I referenced you're either the dog or the fire hydrant, and in this case, we were definitely the dog in that one, and another grateful win. And those bad beats and the wins that you shouldn't have had, doing it as long as I have, they even out over time. And words of advice: you can't let a bad beat get you,
Yep.
and screw up your psyche, because the goal is you make your bets, and now you're already starting to think about next week. Even sometimes while the games are being played, you're thinking like, wow, if this team does this and they win and they're going to be on the road against the 49ers next week. That's really, I think, what you should be doing. Almost like a Bill Belichick statement, like, we're on to Cleveland. Any question about the previous week, he kept saying, we're on to Cleveland.
Yep.
So, what do you think, the guy or not? That was pretty good advice, I think, he gave out to everybody that is engaging in sports betting at this time.
Yeah, I mean, whether you won or you lost, it makes no difference for the coming weeks. So yeah, I mean, you pretty much have to just move on to the next week and do that old cliche. I need to go 1-0.
Yeah, right. And you may notice I have an Eagles sweatshirt on, and this is the time where I think the sentiment in Philadelphia now has gotten so negative. I developed a Twitter app that goes in and identifies NFL tweets, and especially ones that have like a sports betting or a sports pick type of thing to them. And this is the second lowest reading for sentiment in terms of being positive about your team in the last 6 years. The last time it got this low, and I forgot to look it up, Bo, before I came on the show, but it was the Philly was going out to Detroit. The sentiment was that they should fire the new head coach Soriano. They should get rid of the whole coaching staff. Jalen Hurts can't throw a ball to save his life. He can't throw the long ball to save his life.
Sure.
And it was just horribly negative, right? So they
Yeah.
go out to Detroit and they won. I think it was 42-6. And I'm starting to think that the Eagles this week, and our pick 'em at least. You're going to pick the Eagles. You're not going to pick the Giants.
Yes.
I do think the Eagles are probably going to wallop them pretty good this week, and then we'll have to see how it goes for the rest of the season for them. But I think you're getting the Eagles right now, I think, at a really good price, and at the same time they have a lot of problems on defense, but
Yes.
the Giants can't score. So the Eagles this week may look like the steel curtain against this offense. So who knows?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, and no bigger beat than the Raiders and the Chargers, right? I mean, it finally got Staley out of his job. A 63-21 absolute beating. Naturally, anybody that took the over did all right in that.
Yeah, I that was a 10-unit play. I humbly state, it's not like I'm trying to brag here, but that was one that, at least going back on my records back to 2000, was the greatest margin of victory of any bet I ever made. So that speaks volumes to what the market was so oversold on the unders, and that was one of the reasons I was on it. But I never saw 63 points coming. I never even saw them scoring 35, which would have gone over the total on their own merit. But you take the wins when you get them, and it doesn't really matter by how much.
No, exactly. A win's a win.
Yep.
Absolutely.
No style points.
Nope, not in the NFL.
That's for
All
sure.
right. So we have Thursday Night Football tonight. It is Saints and Rams. Both these teams are vying for playoff spots. The Rams can continue to put pressure on that 7th seed. And, of course, the Saints are trying to win their division. So this is an important game for both teams. The Rams are at home. They are a 4-point favorite, and over-under of 46. This one is funny because I think the Rams get it done at home. And they probably cover just because the Saints haven't played particularly well. That being said, I don't think it actually hurts the Saints' chances to win their division, because I don't know that the Bucs end up winning their game later this weekend either. But so I'm going to go Rams. I'm going to take the points. This one feels like it's probably an under, though. 46 seems a little high for what the Saints have been able to put on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is a little head scratching. At the same time, when I see that, I kind of start thinking contrarian that maybe the market is telling us that maybe this game does play a little bit higher. But that's where the in-game live betting strategies come in that I love doing, because if a game, you can have no opinion going into this game tonight, over or under. But if it starts out slow and you get a total at 39.5 during the first or second quarter, you bet the over. And then if the pace of play will go slow, like they're playing in mud, and then it'll pick up, like they're playing in the SEC conference. And you want to take advantage of that scoring volatility. So by design, I would look to try to get like 41.5 on the over, and then look to create a middle when the pace of play picks up and get 49.5 on the under. And lo and behold, maybe you hit both. But it's pizza money bets. You're doing $10, $20 on each side.
Yep.
And if you lose $10 and don't get the other one, I mean, you're not going to lose sleep over it, I hope.
Yeah, no, I mean, you lose that, you're like, oh, okay, I just won't have an extra beer at the sports bar here. Especially since for some reason now they're $10. I don't understand that.
I don't understand why we pay $10 for a pint of beer. Just
right?
I say to myself every time I'm sitting there, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, especially because you can go to the store, right? And they're not that expensive still. I mean, it's not like you're down in Mexico where you can still get $1.50 beers, but I mean, at the store, it doesn't mirror what you pay at any bar anywhere really. But all right, so we got Saturday games yet again, and the Saturday afternoon game, we got the Bengals at the Steelers. Cincy is a 2-point favorite, over under of 37, and that's an interesting over under, because that feels about right, because the Steelers team really doesn't score points. They're definitely not going to, starting Mason Rudolph. But the Bengals have looked good and potentially could be close to that number on their own. Browning has come out and played exceptionally well, and the Steelers defense seems like it is starting to fade.
Yeah, I'm on the Steelers in this game. This is actually one of my bets that I've taken to the window already. Just 50% of the normal bet size, and then I'll see how the line moves ahead of kickoff. And then, if I don't like the line at kickoff, then I have 50% of my bet to take advantage of that scoring volatility that we just talked about. Betting on teams priced between the threes, and what that means is a 3-point favorite to a 3-point underdog that has lost 3 consecutive games to the spread, and facing an opponent that has covered the spread in 2 or more of their last games. 31-16 straight up, 67%. 32-14-3 pushes for 70% winning bets. And that includes a 31-18 under mark for 63% in games bet over the last 10 seasons. There's a little subset here, too. If the foe has covered the spread in 3 consecutive games, 3 or more, then our home team has gone 17-10 straight up, 18-9 against the spread for 67% winners. So I'm going to be, looking at the under and the Steelers. And one last thing here, Bo, if a divisional matchup in this game, which it is, the home team, based on all those parameters I mentioned already, 16-6 straight up, 15-4-3 against the spread for 79% over the last 10 seasons. So I am squarely on the Pittsburgh Steelers here to come away with a big win.
All right. I mean, where it throws me off is quarterback play, right? And it's the only reason I'm on with the Bengals here. Now, granted, this year is unique in the way that half the league is starting backup quarterbacks. So, I mean, some of the stats are kind of skewed, right? When you're looking through history versus what we're seeing on the field right now. It almost feels like when you're playing pick'em on preseason games, right? like some of it, you're like, okay, this team is constructed better, but none of those guys are going to play.
That's right. Yep.
All right. So then the other Saturday game is the Saturday night game. And this one is slated to be ugly. This is the Bills going to the Chargers. The Bills are a 12-point favorite on the road, over under of 44. And I kind of agree with it. The Chargers look like they've given up. And I'm gonna take the Bills, the points, and the over.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I'm a little cautious on the spread though.
Yep.
I'm 50-50 on the spread. And I'll tell you why. I learned this by doing the circuit contest. And, we talk about contrarianism all the time. So before the season starts, the circuit puts out betting lines for every single game for the whole entire season or every single week.
Yep.
So when this game was lined preseason, it
Hmm.
was lined with Buffalo as a 1 point favorite against the Chargers.
Sure.
And that made sense because the Chargers were one of the darlings that was going to, possibly knock off the Chiefs in the AFC conference and get to the Super Bowl. Buffalo was, the typical Buffalo sentiment before the season, but now the line has gone from -1 to -12. In the circle lines, whenever that has gone more than 7 points, 7 or more, it immediately becomes a contrarian. So even if my model would be on the Chargers, there'd be a huge, I'm sorry, on Buffalo, there'd be a huge red flag here with this line movement. And you generally want to sell into that line movement. So I'm a little cautious laying the 12. I would love to see the Chargers score first and go up 7-0, and then I could get Buffalo at 9. That would be much better, but who knows if the Chargers are going to show up, as you said. So that's kind of a mystery. But Buffalo's going to win the game. I can't
Yeah.
imagine them losing it. And 44 seems to be a price tag that's a little cheap.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is they don't have Herbert, right? So
Exactly.
that's where that huge shift comes. It's also where that 44 might be more of a struggle than it would have been. Like, I would bet that line moved significantly as well. I bet that was probably a line of 50 or 50 and a half at the beginning of the season would be my guess. Because
Believe it or not, it opened at 40.5.
really, in the beginning of the
Yeah.
season,
Yeah.
wow,
I'm going to double check that with a different
that's surprising.
database here, but this is usually pretty right on these things. Let's just double check because that does sound a little goofy.
That sounds
Uh,
extraordinarily low for these two offenses. But
let's
I mean,
see.
I would have
Yeah,
taken the
40 and a half.
I would have taken the over in a heartbeat then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it, because it's been so many weeks since I did look at these lines. But it's moved up 3.5. Um,
That's
yeah, a little
surprising.
bit of a concern, but I mean, the Bills could score 42 on their own merit in this matchup if they show up like they did last week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and they just have kind of a unique coaching situation. Obviously Staley gets kicked out. They don't elevate Kellen Moore, which seemed kind of odd. They elevate their linebacker coach in Giff Smith, which is odd. Like, it's just kind of a weird feeling thing. I know they put out a press release saying they didn't want to distract their OC from the job at hand, but just seemed like a bizarre way to go about it, especially if you're going to be looking for a coach. Kellen Moore seemed like he would be the right fit to be able to just move into that position. You don't give him that shot to kind of test drive the last few games of the year. Just seems like a kind of chaotic way to go into this, which is why I think the Bills end up covering. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion they look like they had a lot of confusion all year anyway, but I think there's going to be a lot of confusion within that team, especially this first week of moving coaches around. Usually teams get a bump from firing a coach and bringing someone else up, but this was such a bizarre appointment that I think that they probably don't get that bump, and they probably get beat up pretty good.
Yeah, it's just I guess intuitively it's hard for me to lay the 12 on the road coming off that huge win.
Yep.
But we're at the time of the year too where Buffalo can't take their foot off the gas.
Yep.
And I mean they're a team that actually you could bet, I think, at 2.5 to 1 to win the AFC, which is attractive to me. So why in the world would I think they'd struggle against the Chargers? But that's the NFL. Double-digit dogs have always been kind of like what pros bet on blindly. You get a double-digit dog, okay, I'm betting them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes total sense, and there's actually quite a few of them this week, so lots of opportunity to go down that road. All right, so then we got the Sunday morning games. We got the Browns at the Texans. So this one I'm watching kind of close because Stroud still isn't technically available. he's still listed with the concussion. He has not cleared protocol. So as it sits this morning, with CJ still out, I'm taking the Browns here. They are favored by 2.5 on the road and over under of 40. If CJ doesn't play, I'm going to take Cleveland. I'll take the 2.5. I think they win by a field goal, but I'm going to go with the under.
Yeah, I think that the under is definitely where I'm at. I agree with you on that. 73% of the bets right now are on the over, and that's definitely public money betting the over. Public hates to bet unders. They hate to bet dogs, and especially this time of year. So they see a 40.5. They also know that the under betting blindly on the season has been at historically high win percentages. So the mistake that they make is that, oh, the over's due. That means over the last 3 weeks, I got to bet overs when the number is really low. And it's actually the opposite. The lower the number, the more the propensity is that that game is going to go under at this time of the year. And I think in this matchup, you got two playoff bound teams. At least one of them, I think the Browns is going to be in no matter what. And defense, defense, defense. And I don't care how many injuries the Browns have on that defense. They're deep and they're playing well and they continue to play better and better. And they don't get any credit from any of the media as being one of the top defenses, in the league, up there with the 49ers and the Jets and Denver for that matter. But nevertheless, that's to your advantage because you're getting the Browns cheap. 2.5 points on the road. I like it a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's funny because the Browns are, I think why they don't get love is because they are, like we've seen this movie before and we're seeing it this year. Right? There's a lot of teams that have kind of an elite defense, right? The Browns, the Jets, the Broncos, their defense has looked amazing and the offense has left something to be desired. And so I think they kind of get grouped into, that same grouping with, the Jets that are underperforming based on the roster that they have. And the Browns are also kind of underperforming. Like that offense should be able to score more points than it does. But yeah, that defense is no joke.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching baseball. Like if you're a person that likes offense in baseball, it'd be like watching a week's worth of games that end up 2-1.
Yeah.
Your team wins and they're doing well, but you just can't like there's nothing to brag about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with the Cowboys, you can say, "Hey, we scored 40 points at home again," and okay, that's pretty impressive. That's kind of fun. But if you like defensive teams, then the Cleveland Browns would be one of your favorites this year for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so then we move over to the Lions at the Vikings. Huge game, right? The Lions need this to basically solidify their division. And then the Vikings need this to keep their playoff hopes alive. The bad thing for the Vikings is they have to face the Lions twice in the last 3 games. Not generally a great scenario. But, they have to look at it like anybody else. They have to win this week. I don't think they do. I think the Lions get it done. Detroit is a 3-point favorite on the road. Over under a 47. I'm going to go with the Lions. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to go with the over here.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on. I think the Lions get it done. And, what's going to happen to the Vikings then if they go up by 14 points, say, the win's going to come out of the sails. They're going to know that the playoff hopes are just about all but dashed. Yep. And there's absolutely no chance to catch Detroit and win the division yet. If they won out and Detroit lost out, then the Vikings, I believe, would be the divisional champ. But it's a tough road for Detroit because if they do lose this game, they got to go at Dallas, where Dallas is the Cowboys that we know they are at home. Yep. That's going to be a very tough game to win, period, because Dallas will be fighting for the divisional crown against the Eagles later on, or not later on, but for the last 3 weeks of the season. Then they got to play Minnesota again, but it's at home. So I think Detroit, you're right. They're going to want to win this game first and foremost, and then they're home free. Then they're the division champion, and they don't have to worry about winning in Dallas or winning at home against Minnesota. In fact, they may be resting people in that last game. So this is all the marbles here for Detroit, I think. And I agree with you. I think they get it done. And I do think the second half could be much more high scoring than the first, as Minnesota – just realizes that they're not going to win this game, and the defense gets just a tenth of a second slower is all you need in the NFL, and all of a sudden the scoreboard looks like a pinball machine. So, if this game is playing under, like a live game live under the closing total at halftime, I think to bet that over would just be an exceptionally great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got Green Bay at the Panthers. This is obviously a get-right game for Green Bay. I don't think the Panthers are going to surprise 2 weeks in a row. Green Bay is favored by 5, over-under of 37.5. So they don't think the Panthers are going to score at all. It's funny, though. I think they're right. I'm going to take Green Bay. I'm going to take the 5 points. This is another one where I'll take the under.
I think so too. And intuitively, if you're a new bettor out there listening, you look at a number at 36 or 37, and it kind of reminds you of the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I'm going to bet the over because it's due to win. Well, nothing's due to win. And
why they play the game.
Like this time of year, what's Green Bay going to do? They're going to play it very close to the vest. If you could tell them they could win this game 17-10 right now, they would take it in a heartbeat. And I think the play calling will be a little bit more conservative. And why not? You don't want to make mistakes that keeps Carolina in the game like last week. And that lesson is learned. So if Green Bay plays this game with no turnovers, there's no doubt in my mind they win the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, turnover battle is definitely huge. But the Panthers are just they're bad terrible in so many areas.
they are a new version of terrible, kind of like the Detroit Pistons, but all due respect to the Piston fans out there, it's got to be miserable.
Absolutely. All right, we got the Colts at the Falcons. This is another big game. Atlanta is a 1-point favorite at home, so Vegas doesn't believe in them. And over-under of 44.5. This one is interesting. I actually have the Colts, even though they're not necessarily favored here. And then I'm actually going to take the over here. 44.5. It feels like it's probably about right, but these two teams randomly can put up points. I think this is kind of that week.
I agree 100%. I think the Colts get it done, and I also think it plays over. Again, a team that is really, if they were in any other division, they wouldn't even be a contender right now. Speaking of the Falcons. They certainly had the talent preseason to be, a 10-7 type of team, but that hasn't happened. Whereas the Colts are 8-6 and right on the cusp of getting in there with another win. I think that is all they're going to need. Looking at their schedule down the stretch here, they play the Colts play Las Vegas and Houston. Both those games are winnable for them. They could win out, but if they take 2 out of 3 of these games, and I think they do beat Las Vegas because what do they have to play for? Not too much. Then they're going to easily be in. Whereas Atlanta has to go then on the road to Chicago, who's playing a whole lot better and almost knocked off the Browns last week. And then at New Orleans, which might be for the division crown. Who knows? But that's a pretty tough assignment, those 3 for a team like Atlanta. So I think the Colts win this one, and I do think it plays under.
All right. And then we have Hawks at the Titans. Titans season is essentially done. The Seahawks have to win out. So this is another important game for them. Seattle is favored by 2.5. That feels about right. This feels like it'd be a field goal type of game. Over under of 41.5. That line seems too low. I'm taking the over there.
Yeah, I like that side of it too. And I also like Tennessee here. This might be an upset alert, but Seattle coming off that, unbelievably miracle win, if you want to call it, over the Eagles.
Yeah.
Where the Eagles had a chance to, go 24-10 or at least extend the lead and take the wind out of the Seahawks' sails. And then some inexplicable things happened in that game. But that's the game of football. It doesn't matter if you outgain an opponent. It just matters, like you said, the margin of victory. It's either negative or positive. Sometimes it's a tie, but you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
But this system's pretty good here. You're going to bet on home teams. That is an average rushing defensive team, allowing 95 to 125 yards per game, and facing the road team being Seattle, that is a poor rushing team, less than 100 yards per game. and also is being outrushed by 75 or more yards in each of their last two games. So Seattle has not been able to run the ball for a while now, and Tennessee actually can stop the run pretty well. So that combination there, I think, really supports an upset win by Tennessee, and then it's going to put the Seahawks out of their misery, I guess.
Yeah, I mean there would still be a path, but man, they'd need a lot of help.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, it's one of those like winning the Powerball
Kind
type
of,
of help, you know.
absolutely. All right, and then we have the last Sunday morning game: Washington at the Jets. The Jets are a 3-point favorite, over under of 37. I do have the Jets winning this game. Neither team is good, let's be honest, but that Jets defense, I think, is the difference maker in this game. I'm going to go with the Jets. I'm going to take them to cover, over under of 37. I'm going the under.
Yeah, again, it makes no sense that this game is under 40 points. Why? Because the Washington defense is setting unbelievably anemic levels of defensive play.
Yep.
And granted, they sometimes play hard and they're competitive, but this is a matchup of the Commanders and the Jets, folks. And this could be easily one of those 17-10, maybe even 14-7, 10-7 games.
Yep.
I don't see it even getting close to 40 points. So I agree with you. And the Jets win and the under.
All right, we got the afternoon games. We got Jags at the Bucks. This is a pick'em, straight up. Plus minus 0 for Tampa, and over under 42.5. I actually have the Jags winning this on the road, and I'm going to go with the over. 42 just doesn't seem high enough for really either one of these teams because the Jags don't play good defense. They have a nice offense. The Bucks, depending on the week, has a good offense. Their defense is a little bit better than the Jags, but I think this is one where both teams can get down the field and score.
I agree with you. And it's time now for the Jacksonville Jaguars to get their act together if they want to win this division. They're slowly each week letting the Colts and the Houston Texans have life, and they were on life support only about a month ago.
Yeah.
So with the standings here, Jacksonville being 8-6 and tied with the Colts and Houston, they can't ill afford to lose this game, no matter who they are playing, and they need to beat someone pretty badly. Double-digit win here would be really nice for the Jaguars and their fans. And I think they are the right team in this matchup. So I agree with both of your plays on the Jaguars and the total.
Yep. All right, so this one's my upset of the week. Cards on the road in Chicago. Chicago is favored by 4, over under of 43. This here, I think the Cards pull this off. And 43, I'm going to take the over. The Cards have been a scrappy team, and they've shown glimpses of being able to put up points. And of course, the Bears, I don't actually trust their defense. Their offense can move the ball. Again, another inconsistent team. I think this is one where it can end up being, 24-21 kind of a game. And so, yeah, I'm going to take the over here, but I'm going to take the Cards to upset on the road.
I agree with you here. You're getting about plus 150 to 160 on the money line. And it's a very simple money line system here I pulled out of the repository. So you're playing on road teams using the money line that allowed 40 or more points in their previous game. That's all there is to it. And over the last 10 seasons, it's gone 68-60, 53%. So you say, oh, John, that 53% is nothing to get excited about, but it is because you're getting paid a plus 150 for a $100 bet. So imagine, I call these blackjack systems, Bo. And the reason is that if you go to a blackjack table and you play 128 hands and you win 68 and 60, you're betting $100 a hand, you're going to win basically $800, depending on how many times you hit blackjack. It would be more. Sure. But in this system, you're actually walking out of the casino with a record of 68-60, 128 bets made, with $4,170. So I'd rather have the $4,170 sitting at home doing this system over and over and over again than going to a casino and playing blackjack for 128 hands, which personally would bore me to tears. That many hands, I'd have to go do something else.
I think that's where the free drinks help, right?
That's true. Yep, and then my card counting gets mixed up, and I forget where I'm at. And yep, you're right.
All right, this is going to be an awesome game. I'm looking forward to this one. It's Cowboys at the Dolphins. Miami is favored by 1.5 at home. Over under of 50, and man, this one is every bit the coin flip you think it should be, right? It's you got the Cowboys. Again, it's December. You never know what they're going to do. Miami doesn't play great defense. Their offense is dynamic. So obviously I'm taking the over regardless of who wins. But this one, I think the Cowboys can steal this win on the road. Miami is another team like the Cowboys that haven't beat anybody that has a winning record. This is one where I think the Cowboys, even though they're the, quote unquote underdog, 1.5 doesn't really solidify that moniker, but they're not the favorite. So I'm going to take the Cowboys here on the road against Miami. Last week Miami had their best showing on defense. I don't know that they do that 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and the market's definitely telling you that Dallas is the right side here, because if Dallas has been so bad on the road and has not yet beat a team with a winning record on the road, then why are they only a 1.5 point underdog against a team with the same record? So it's kind of two teams where I don't want to use the word smoke and mirrors, because that's reserved for other situations. But these are two teams that really could be a whole lot better, actually, 12-2 maybe, or they could be sitting there at 8-6, much like the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars could easily be 10-4, but they're not. Dallas and Miami, I think, are both they're fortunate to have 10 wins at this point. They're both in the playoffs. But Miami wants to win that divisional title, and Buffalo is crawling up their what. So it's going to be a spectacular game. This is the game that's on the schedule. I think it's going to be the most exciting one to watch. Again, with live in-game betting, there's going to be lead changes back and forth. If you bet Miami and you're watching the game and all of a sudden Dallas is out to a 10-0 lead and you're going, oh, my God, I made a bad bet. Well, maybe you didn't, because then you can use the pizza money bet to get even a better price on Miami. And, lo and behold, they come back and you at least win the pizza money bets. So, that's what I encourage people to do, and make sure you're having fun doing it. If you make a bet where you just get it booked and then you think, oh, my God, what did I just do? Then you're betting too much. You're definitely betting too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we'll go and watch games at the bar, and we'll just bring ones, and we'll be betting against each other at the table, right? Just sitting there having some beers, throwing dollars down, making bets that, it doesn't make any sense, but but they're fun. It was funny. We went. I went to the Hawks game on Thanksgiving, and so we were doing dollar bets during the game, and we took which Seahawk is going to score a touchdown first, right? And whoever won, everyone else in the bet had to buy them a beer. So basically, someone was going to drive them home. It's really how that was going to work.
Yeah.
The problem was the only touchdown that was scored was on defense. Nobody took a defensive player. So that bet didn't end up paying out at all. So but it's still fun. Even when they don't actually even happen, the bets are still fun to do.
Yeah, because they're active right to the end. Anything can happen in the final minute, even, and the bet is still alive. It's never like eliminated for any reason. So I agree with you. I think that's fun, and it also keeps sometimes it keeps drunkenness minimized and expense to Uber minimized. When you're wrong. So I mean, there's good and bad. There's good and good in both.
Absolutely. All right, we got the Sunday night game. Pats at the Browns. I don't know why this is a primetime game. I feel like they could have flexed just about anything else into here. The Pats at the Broncos is what I meant. And the Broncos are a 6.5 point favorite, over under 34.5. And that line feels, it doesn't feel right. And why I say that is the Broncos, if they're not getting turnovers, they don't score very well. This is one where they're going to have to hope that they get the ball back in plus territory. It's something that they've really had to rely on over this run that they've been on. If they are +2 and those are in plus territory, they absolutely score. If they have to beat someone heads up without the turnover battle being won, largely they lose. Now, I don't think they lose this game because it's the Pats and they're pretty terrible overall. But I don't know that they cover a 6.5 point line. That's one of those where I'll take the Broncos, but I don't take them to cover. And 34.5 is probably, I'll probably take the under here. I don't expect any points out of the Patriots. And the one thing that the Pats will do is they'll protect the ball, which means against that Patriots defense, let's be honest, is pretty good. I think the Broncos offense will struggle. So I'm going to go the Broncos win, but not to cover, and the under.
I agree 100%. And the system here talks about turnovers. So you're going to bet against home favorites between 3.5 and 9.5 points, following a game in which they forced no turnovers and now facing an opponent after 3 consecutive games in which they committed 1 or 0 turnovers in each one. So the Patriots are taking care of the ball, and their defense, as you said, is underrated. There's no question about it. If it wasn't for the defense, who knows what the record would be and who knows what their point differential would be. But I think New England's going to sneak in here with, I mean, what do they have to play for? Nothing. They can play loose and free. Some of these guys are looking, for free agency. Some of them want to impress the coaching staff for next year. Who knows what Belichick's going to be doing after this. That's a dangerous team right now for Denver to be playing. I just think New England's going to get the job done. It might be 10-9, but I think they get it done.
Well, and it's funny because this is where teams like the Pats are extraordinarily dangerous because, like you said, they don't have anything to play for. But what they do have to play for is spoiler. And they can ruin the Broncos' run here to try and sneak into the playoffs by sneaking a win here. Now, I don't think they do, but they definitely can.
I don't think there's any love lost between Belichick and Sean Payton either. I don't know that for a fact, but, I mean, history will tell you that, I don't think Belichick doesn't like any coaches in the NFL when you really think about it. He's like a center. Center hates everybody on the team, and that's how it is. But
I don't think Belichick likes people in general.
only guys in uniform that win games.
Exactly.
But, that's the irony with him, and this is like a shout-out kind of thing, but he's a tremendous humanitarian in the offseason in the New England area, especially Boston. He's done some amazing things with fundraising for worthy causes, getting his own money involved into it. So he's almost like a different guy once he gets off that field of play and gets out of the war rooms and becomes more of a normal, relaxed guy that looks like, he should be surrounded by grandchildren.
Yeah, it's funny because as soon as the season's over, right, as soon as he doesn't have to talk about his team, even if he's still talking about football, like absolute wealth of knowledge, but then he almost seems like a normal human. But during the season, I'm pretty sure he doesn't like people at all.
Yep, especially the press.
Definitely the press. Absolutely.
The press is number one.
All right, so we got 3 Monday games for Christmas Day. So we started off with the Raiders at KC. The Chiefs are a 10-point favorite and over under 41.5. This one, I don't love this line. I would like this so much better if it was 9, 9 than 10. But I'm still going to take KC to cover. That's one of those where I wouldn't put actual money on this one. I don't feel good about that, just because the Raiders, their level of play is so inconsistent, right? Like they put up 0 points against a Minnesota team, and then hung 63 against the Chargers. So who knows what they're going to do? And then, of course, KC, to cover the 10, you need Tony to actually catch the ball. We haven't seen him do a lot of that. So it's not something that's not a line that I love. I would take him to cover. I would like that line a lot better if it was 9. And then the over under of 41.5, I'll still take the over here.
Well, one of the first games, I guess we disagree on the total. I like the under here, Bo. And with all due respect, it's backed by this system that I've used time and time again. Pretty simple to understand. You're going to bet under in a game between 35.5 and 42 points in a conference matchup, and with one of the teams being Kansas City coming off a double-digit road win.
Yep.
So now you have that team coming back home, double-digit road win previous game, conference matchup, total 35.5 to 42. That has won 73% of the time over the last 10 seasons, and just about 105 games in total were bet. So I do think that the under, in my humble opinion, is the bet here. But again, if you like the over and you disagree with me and you're listening out there, use that live in-game bet to your advantage. Kansas City has had 35 games in which the opponent has had a 7-point lead, no matter where it was, home or away. They have had the biggest swings of lead changes of any team in the NFL. So your goal here would be that it starts out very, very slow. And if you like Kansas City, you want the Raiders to get out to that 10-0 lead again that they did the last time they played.
Yeah.
I had Kansas City in the Circle Eliminator, whatever week that was, and I saw it with 14-0, I think it was. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And then Kansas City got their act together, and it could be a repeat performance too. Kansas City has been getting out of the gate very slowly. So if you like the over in this game, I think you're going to have a chance in the first or second quarter to get it as many as 3.5, maybe as many as 6.5 points cheaper.
Yeah, if you're doing in-game betting, absolutely. It is something that I think would potentially be able to be bought down a little bit. But 41 just seems low based on what the Chiefs and the Raiders have been able to do during the season.
Yeah,
but it's very close. Right, like that's another one where I would have liked to have seen that for betting the over. I would have liked to have seen that closer to like 38, but
especially coming off the game with 63 points.
Yeah, I mean,
the is huge for the Raiders. So I think that's another factor why it feels low. The teams that have losing records that even score 35 or more points have a propensity to regression the next week.
Sure.
And, scoring 63 for a losing record team is insane.
Oh, yeah, that is, I mean, that's an aberration. Like, that's not, that's like Madden numbers. That's not a real thing. I expect that the Raiders will probably come out and put up like 13, maybe 17 points. And then this is why I think you're going to get there is I think this is one where the Chiefs realize they need to keep their foot in it to be able to win this division. They haven't played exceptionally well most of the season. So this is one where I think the offense finally gets it together and they probably put up, right around 30 points. So, it's probably going to be like 28. So that just gets you there. So that's why I went the over there. But yeah, I mean, it could be the other way, right? As inconsistent as the play has been, like this could be one of those 17-13 kind of games. So, I mean, as wildly inconsistent as they've been, it's definitely one where I wouldn't put a lot of money on this game. This one is definitely, like you say, a pizza money type of opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the game, 63-21, their previous game. Game before that, they lost 3-0. To Minnesota. And yeah, that was a full game.
Exactly.
Then they lost 31-17 to Kansas City, 13 points in a 20-13 loss to Miami, 16 points in a win over the New York Jets, and then scored 30 against the Giants. So they scored 30, and then the next week they face a decent defense, and they score 16, 13, 17, 0, then 63 against a team where the locker room must have been just unbelievably torn apart. And now they probably are going to, like you said, score like in that 10 to 16 range.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where that offense is. So I think the bulk of the scoring here will be on KC's end. I don't think they come out the way they came out the first time they met up.
It could be the opposite. I was just thinking that if Kansas City gets out to a double-digit lead and the Raiders haven't scored, and you like the Raiders pre-flop and you bet them, then don't. I would suggest not adding pizza money to it.
Sure.
Because what does Vegas have to play for at that point? Nothing. Just to play not to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, it's very different if the Raiders jump out because the expectation is KC wins. So, yeah, you'll have some good opportunities. If KC comes out, there's no benefit to betting the Raiders from there.
No,
because you know the Raiders are coming back. Like they're just not built that way. All right, and then this one is about to be a bloodbath. Giants at the Eagles. Eagles are an angry team at this point. They are a 12-point favorite, over under a 42.5. I got the Eagles cruising in this game. The Giants, I mean, they've had a good story with DeVito. I just don't think they have enough to be able to not only beat the Eagles, but I don't know that they can cover this spread. Now, that being said, I haven't loved the Eagles all year. They have kind of backed into wins. Their defense has not played exceptionally well. They've kind of actually underperformed despite their record. And it's something I said even before they, lost these last few games, is even in these wins, they haven't looked great. The thing that's encouraging is they have the pieces and they can turn the corner on it, but we just haven't seen them be able to do it yet. This is a team they should be able to put away relatively quickly. I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to take them not to cover, though. 12 just seems a little too big for me. 42.5, I'm going to take the over there.
I like your take on the over. I do think the Eagles are gonna turn the corner here, as you said, and give this Giants team a whopping. I just don't see it any other way. And one of the reasons I'm kind of biased this way is that the sentiment, from my Twitter app is so highly negative that it hasn't been that negative since a game where Philly went out and played Detroit and won. I think it was 42-6 a few seasons ago. And for whatever reason, the volatility of this sentiment app is no greater than in Philadelphia and the New York markets. So I guess that is pretty obvious where, the Eagles go on a 3-game losing streak. And now, Soriano doesn't know what he's doing. Hurts can't read the rush. The receivers can't get separation. Nobody can do anything right. Kelsey's shaking his head on the sidelines, wishing that Taylor Swift was in love with him. I don't know. I mean, what's going on with this thing? And those are the points where you feel like the team's coming completely unglued. And if you listen to the local radio stations of any of these places, you're going to 5 minutes, your head's going to be ready to blow off at the top of your shoulders. But when you feel that way, it's going to be a real war against this Giants team in a divisional battle. I think that's where the advantage is to go contrarian. It's difficult to do. Nobody wants to bet on a team that's lost 3 in a row, the way the Eagles have lost 3 in a row, and with all the rhetoric associated with it. But, this is the time to take them. And if it's 12 points, it's 12 points. And after all, think of it this way, Bo, why in the world is it a team that's playing as badly, especially on defense, as the Eagles are? Why are they favored, by 12 points against William and Mary?
Yeah.
I think the market's telling you that, the Eagles are the pick. You either win it or you lose it. You move on to the next week. It is a grind for the whole season. One losing pick's not going to make you profitable for a season or not profitable. But at the same time, I just think this is the moment at home where the Eagles can shut everybody up, get their fan base believing in them again. The bandwagon's empty. Everybody's jumped off of it that really wasn't a pure Eagle fan. And I think they're going to do it. I really do. That's why I'm wearing this in support, because I feel like I'm the only supporter in the whole United States for the Eagles right now. And I want to show some love to them because they are a good team.
Oh, they definitely are. They definitely are. Well, and that's why I have them to win straight up. I just think they're going to win by 10 instead of 12. only because the Giants have shown some life with DeVito, right? And because the Eagles defense hasn't looked sharp, he's going to have some opportunities. So do I think they're enough to be able to beat the Eagles? Absolutely not. Do I think they're good enough to be able to keep them from covering? Yeah, I think they're just good enough to do that. I still think it's going to be close. And it could easily get out of hand, right? Like it could easily be every bit the Eagles we expect to see. And, they just completely dunk on them. And they should. Like, when you look at the rosters, they absolutely should do that. But just based on the way the Eagles have played, especially on that defensive side, and the new life the Giants have kind of shown, this is one where I think the Giants lose, but it's probably by 10. 12 is such a weird number. Like I don't love a line at 12. I mean, double digit lines aren't. I'm not a huge fan of them anyway, but 12 is just such an odd one.
It usually, my experience with 12 is usually the team that's going to lose the game kicks more field goals and touchdowns, and the opponent does get the touchdowns. So that might be something to watch during the game too, because 21-9 is 12. 31-19, that would be 4 field goals and a touchdown.
Absolutely.
So that might be a good prop bet to look for. That over field goals for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're playing fantasy and you have their guy as your kicker, that this might be that game for you.
Yep, I think that's a good look. Yep.
Absolutely. All right, and then of course the Monday night Christmas Day game, Ravens at San Fran. This one is going to be special. This potentially could be your Super Bowl preview game. San Fran has looked just about untouchable when they are healthy, which they are, and the Ravens have been quiet but solid all year. So this is one where I like San Fran at home, but that 5-point spread is probably going to be pretty close. I'm going to take the points, though. I'll take the 5, and the over under a 47. I'm going to take the over.
I'm with you. I actually think Baltimore can win this game.
Yes.
I really do. And, I think, just do a piece of money bet pre-flop on the money line with Baltimore instead of the points is probably a pretty good look. And then the over is betting the over in games where one of the teams is playing with extra rest, and it's priced as a dog of 3.5 to 9.5 points from week 9 on out, and is a matchup of teams with the same exact record. And I would say the exact number of wins, and both teams are above 500. The over has gone 16-3 for 84% over the past 30 years. So it's very rare, but the combination of those parameters work really well together. And needless to say, with 16-3 and 84% to the over, I like the over here quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, that gets us through our week. And, again, thank you for being here. This hour always goes by super quick. If you are watching on Roku, be sure to hang out for Loudmouth coming up next. And, of course, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. On behalf of myself and John Ryan, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all next week.